Welcome to Trulyfit.
Give me a little bio on you and what you do in the business and social media industry day to day.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. My name is Gabby Pinkerton. I am both a wedding planner and a Pinterest strategist. So my day-to-day stuff looks like a lot of wedding planning, but also using Pinterest as a business tool. And since it really helped me grow my own business, I started teaching people back in 2020 when weddings were not so much happening during that time. So now I kind of help people through a variety of ways kind of reach their ideal client on Pinterest.
Before we get into all the Pinterest stuff, and we're going to talk about how that relates to small businesses and small businesses that are involved in fitness, we've got to talk a little bit about wedding planning stuff since that is your other expertise. And I think it's interesting. During my wedding, I had the unfortunate circumstances of, number one, a random giant storm moved through the day of and only torrential downpoured for 24 hours during the day of my wedding. It was nice 10 days before, nice 10 days after. My caterer had another wedding that she had to go to, didn't tell me till last second, so I wasn't dealing with my normal caterer. And my wedding planner, who was pregnant at the time, was having some complications and couldn't make the wedding. So something always seems to go wrong with weddings. Give me some advice for people who are planning weddings so that they understand that this is a really difficult process.
Oh my God, Steve, that's pretty unbelievable. Actually, you have a trifecta of bad things. Gosh, I think I was going to say hire a wedding planner, and not because that's what I do, but I just understand the value of all the fires we put out behind the scenes that you will never know about. And that's what makes a really good wedding planner is you should never know that your caterer was not going to be the right one or whatever that is. Your planner should kind of handle that. But unfortunately, she sounds like she was in her own kind of predicament. So we have a team and we never go solo to a wedding for that exact reason. So if something were to happen to me on my way there or anything like that, I have a team backing me up always. I guess at the very least, a month of coordinator. If you love doing your own planning, that's kind of my best advice, to at least pass off all the details to somebody for the month before your wedding. And my other big thing would be, I know a lot of family members want to help, a lot of friends want to help, but at the end of the day, try to make sure they can be guests just as much as you get to enjoy your wedding day. So that means let them do stuff maybe up until the month before the wedding, but don't have them come in and set tables and chairs or anything like that, because they're hustling that morning and they're really kind of working hard before trying to get to change or get ready or anything like that. So I always recommend hire professional vendors to do all of your day of stuff.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, looking back on the experience, my wife and I didn't actually really enjoy our wedding day. Everyone we talked to, they loved our wedding. They had a great time. But because we knew everything that was going on, every step, if there was anything slightly off, we noted that, right? So it's like we had planned for this event that has all these like moving pieces, and inevitably some things are going to go wrong. And if you know what the plan's supposed to be and there's slight deviations, then you're rattled. So I think it's such good information that you gave to say, like, hey, if you're somebody who doesn't want to be stressed at all, you don't want to know everything that's going on. Like let your wedding planner deal with it. You sit back and enjoy your day.
That's actually very true. And while we have some type A clients that like to be in the know, we will go over the details with them leading up to the day, just an overall kind of bird's eye view of what's happening on the day. And some clients like to know, hey, coming up in the next 15 minutes is your first dance, or, they don't want to be surprised. They want to kind of know what's happening, obviously. But yeah, we're not going to say, can you believe your florist didn't show up until blah, no, we're going to just handle it. And, maybe later on we'll go out for drinks with them, a few months from now and share all the horror stories, because some people like to know that later on.
Quick shameless plug here. I do co-own a registry that you can use if you're building your wedding registry called Skipwish. And we can add gifts from all over the internet, unlike Target or Amazon, where you're adding gifts only from one specific site. With Skipwish, you can add gifts from anywhere all over the internet. So somebody is having a wedding coming up, an engagement, a baby, use Skipwish, please. So just a quick shameless plug here. But we are here to talk about Pinterest, how Pinterest can help you in your business. But I first want to just give like an overhead view of what Pinterest is. There's a lot of people who are purely in the fitness space and they don't have time to work on all the social media apps. And I feel like Instagram is kind of synonymous with people who are in the fitness space. Maybe if they're older, they have Facebook, but Pinterest isn't always synonymous with that. So explain sort of high level what exactly Pinterest is and sort of the lingo involved with it, pins and boards and how it's used day to day.
Yeah, so basically how I see it is everybody has a profile, and on that profile you have your basic information, your name, kind of who you are, what you do, a photo of you or your brand. And on that main page you have all of these squares, which are called boards. Like think of it as a file folder, right? So all of these different file folders, and within each board there are pins. There could be dozens of pins, there could be hundreds of pins, there could be thousands of pins. And those are basically all of those little files within your file folder based on a certain topic. So in my case, in the wedding planning industry, I have a board that's called Utah weddings, because we do a lot of destinations. So within the Utah weddings, I'm going to have a variety of images, which are pins, that have all of these Utah wedding related photos. So maybe it's places like venues to get married in Utah. Maybe it's a design that's very Utah themed or something like that. So in the fitness space, same thing, right? You have all of these boards. One is maybe nutrition. One is maybe lower body workout, upper body workout. And so within each board, you find yourself having all of these different images. Some of them can be videos, and we can go deeper into that later, but videos and images, pins that are all within that one topic. And each pin is going to have a title, a description, and the most important part is it has a link. So those pins are clickable. Now, where you want them to click, again, we can go into strategy down the road, but ideally you're sending people to a place like your website or perhaps your Instagram, something that is going to further give them value based off of that one pin they saw.
Okay, so before we go into the strategy, let's maybe take a step backwards. I sign up for Pinterest. I have maybe a business that sells a product or a service. You can go through both, a product or a service. What is my first step? So in my brain, my first step would be check out other competitors from similar businesses and see what kind of boards they have and maybe build boards similar to theirs. Would that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so a few things, you have to do a little bit of market research. So part of that is your competitors, right? So take a look at their boards, see what they specialize in. But specifically for Pinterest, you got to pay attention to two things. One is keywords. Keywords are super important because how people are finding your images is basically they're going into the Pinterest search bar, they're typing in a word that is very basic, most likely. So we avoid using super specific terms unless your audience is very advanced in that term, but you kind of have to dumb it down a little bit. Like if someone's just getting started in fitness and looking for a basic workout, you're putting that in the search bar. The other thing is, yeah, your competitors, what are they using in terms of imagery? So keywords is super important, but also imagery. If all you are if the only images that you currently had are stock images of like a hand or a foot or like something not relevant, less likely to get clicked on, right? So your competitors might actually be showing some really awesome full body photos of themselves working out, or they might be this like overhead shot of an amazing salad for their nutrition board, right? So pay attention to the quality of the images and the way that they are styled, as well as the keywords that are being used.
Yeah, I love how you said that because I was told once by somebody that, Instagram is where you go to show people what you did, but Pinterest is where you go where you want to know what people are going to plan to do sort of day to day, right? So you're searching. So maybe they're building a gym and they want some inspiration to say like, what can my gym look like? And they type in something like cool gyms or, futuristic gyms, and they want to see the coloration and the equipment and the aesthetic setup inside. So I think people need to focus on that sort of, before they build out what they want to build out. Like, what would you type in? If you were looking for this, what exactly would you type into that search bar and maybe sort of work backwards and build your pins that way?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And actually Pinterest themselves say, not verbatim, but they basically say Pinterest is where you go to plan your future self. your future wedding, your future body, your future mindset, your future home. Like that is where you go to collect all of these ideas and put them in a board, that file folder. And that's where you come back to that board to start actually doing the things that you've saved over time on Pinterest. So yeah, you're exactly right, Steve. That's basically Pinterest is kind of where you're going to plan.
So let's talk a little bit about strategy now. Let's say I'm my first week on Pinterest, I am a personal trainer and I have my own individual business. I do virtual training. Maybe I do some, in-home training, something to that extent. I work at a gym and I start building these boards. But when people are clicking on my pins, is it best that I send them, let's say, directly to my Instagram? Can I do that? Is it best that I send them to my website? A little bit of both? Are you sending people always to the same location, or does each individual pin send to different locations?
Okay, I love this question because there's a few strategies that you could do here. So first question would be, what's your main goal, right? Is it to grow your Instagram? Then in that case, I would say, yes, send them to your Instagram. However, there's a caveat here. Don't send them just to your URL of your profile. You've got to send them to something that is relevant to what they just clicked on. So if you had a pin that was saying, 5 ab workouts to get your clients a 6-pack, I don't know, I'm just making this up. Make sure that when they click on that, you're giving them the answers. And perhaps you did do an Instagram post with that exact answer where you list out 5 ab workouts and there's a carousel and there's images. That 10 out of 10, that is super relevant for them. They're getting the answer that they needed. However, I guess they're not necessarily converting right away, and that's okay. They're kind of you're building the like, know, and trust factor about you and your brand because they're coming in a little bit cold on Pinterest. They don't know who you are yet. They just found your pin because of what they typed into the search bar, and they're like, yeah, 5 ab workouts, that sounds amazing. So now you've got them on Instagram, and you've got to then do something on Instagram to convert them, right? Maybe they become a follower. Maybe they become a subscriber to your email list. Whatever that is, there's got to be a call to action then on your Instagram. The second part of your question, kind of the second possibility here is, yeah, I love personally sending my wedding clients to my website, but specifically my blog. And a lot of people are like, no, blogging's dead. There's no benefit. And it's true. Nobody's going to actually sit there and necessarily read word for word your 500-word blog. However, one, it's really good for SEO. Google loves blogs. And two, it's another way to get your client to convert. So they're leaving Pinterest. They're going onto a blog post where perhaps you are sharing the 5 ab workouts, and maybe you have something clickable in there. Maybe it's, hey, download this ab program for free, and now you've got them on your email list. Or perhaps it's schedule a free consultation with me, blah, blah, blah. You got them, you got a free phone call, you got them there. So there's a lot more that you can do on a blog post than you can do in Instagram in that quick, actionable way. So those would be my 2 main strategies on where to send your people from Pinterest.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Sending them to your blog, number one, because it helps with SEO overall. I know people say blogs are dead, but they just don't understand search engine optimization and how it works and keywords. And we can go into that a little bit further, although we already touched on it, but also having like some sort of prompt box, call to action, pull up on your webpage, maybe whatever 5 seconds in, you can control that depending upon what you use, Wix or Squarespace, or maybe you use something a little bit more intricate where it pops up and says, hey, book a free phone call. I can get you, whatever, your 6-pack in 40 days, meet with me for free kind of deal. So you have a chance to actually acquire and gain that customer and not just gain brand recognition. Seems to also be something that is not only relevant, but that's a lot of people's goals, right? They don't necessarily want to gain brand recognition. They're doing this because they need money, right? They're doing this as a job, and they want to acquire the client.
Exactly. Yeah, and I would say, just to kind of counterbalance that, one thing I wouldn't necessarily do is I would avoid, unless this is all you have to work with right now, like the example you gave was you're brand new to Pinterest, where are you sending people? I would avoid as much as possible sending them just to the home page of your website or in return your contact form. If you send them directly there, they're a little bit lost, right? They just clicked on 5 great ab workout ideas, and you're on the home page. Now they're on the homepage of your website. They have no idea where to find this actual workout, right? So you're doing them a disservice. They're kind of turned off by it. They feel sold to, or they feel like, oh, that was dumb. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. They click out, they leave. Same goes for your contact form. As much as I love a good call to action and say, I want you to reach out to me and I will give you your 5 ab workout program for free, it's too many steps. So they want to get some information pretty quickly. So they don't want to go quite to your contact form yet. They're not ready. They're too cold still. And they certainly don't want to just go to the homepage of your website. If your homepage of your website is the only thing you have right now, then I would send them there if it makes sense, as long as it's not promising them something like a workout or something. If you're just sharing about your business, about your program, you can send them there for more education and informational stuff, but it's not going to be the best strategy.
Interesting. So what about if a trainer has like a YouTube page, and on their YouTube page they have videos of them doing said exercises, and it's contextually relevant? So for example, the pin says something like the 20 best foods to eat if you're trying to lose weight. And then they have a YouTube video explaining how to make recipes using these foods. Directing them to the YouTube video would be fine, and people do this?
Yes, 100%. So yes, that's like exactly perfect. You can do that. You can also send them to the blog post and embed your YouTube video in there, and you can do both. That's the other thing I want to say. You should use your images in multiple ways. So you could create multiple pins with just the same image. And you brought up a really interesting point, Steve, is there's going to be text on top of a lot of these images, right? So to give people an idea of why they would click on your pin, you've got to put a little bit of text. If they just see, a guy with a 6-pack, they're like, oh yeah, I want to look like this guy, but I have no idea what I'm clicking on. So you've got to put, 5 best ways to get a 6-pack or whatnot, and then they click on it and it can send them to one location. But you could also use a different angle of that same guy with a slightly different copy or text on top, and then send them to the blog post version of that. So that's also when, once you've been on Pinterest for a long time, you start to analyze your data and you say, wow, the ab stuff is really what my audience wants to see. Then you can continue to repurpose that same blog post and that same YouTube video, but switch up the pins, add new images, create new text on top, maybe slightly change up the design, but it could still send to your popular URL. If your YouTube video is crushing it and people are loving it, continue to send your traffic to that. That's what people really want to see.
Is there any reason as a business, maybe I can think of certain businesses, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you shouldn't have a Pinterest page? It seems like I get it from a personal standpoint. If you're somebody who's not really interested in the images and you just don't want to waste time on social media, but from a business standpoint, it seems like every business should have their foot at least dipped in their toes in the water into a Pinterest page.
Good question. I will be honest and say I don't think everybody should be on Pinterest. The main reason being, I think some people are going to spread themselves too thin trying to do all the things, right? And so for some businesses, if you're already crushing it on Instagram and very much like people that don't want to join TikTok, I would say the same goes for Pinterest. If you just feel like, oh my God, it's going to put too much on my plate, and you're doing really well on one channel, I'd say as much as possible, stick to that channel. Now, if you do have the capacity to grow and you maybe have a bigger team and you're like, let's add Pinterest, then by all means, if you have the time. However, I do think some businesses that are not quite as visually appealing or don't have a visual behind it, it's a little bit harder for them to show up. So an example for that in the wedding industry is DJs. I have a lot of DJ clients that are like, I want to be on Pinterest so bad, but I have no idea what to post, right? Because they're audio, the people. That is a little bit harder for them to show up. And it's not impossible. The examples that I give them are create pins that share something about songs. So like 5 best father-daughter dance songs of 2023. People love that kind of stuff because they're going on Pinterest to plan their wedding anyway. You might as well have some of that content. That being said, if they are a DJ located in Minnesota, somebody from California can find that pin and it's completely irrelevant to their location, right? I mean, sure, they could fly that person out for their wedding, but I do think like that's one of the vendors in the wedding industry that's a little bit harder. So I would imagine, yeah, even in the fitness industry, it can still be challenging. There's maybe some very niche businesses where it's a little bit harder for them to show up visually, although health and wellness is like skyrocketing on Pinterest. So I feel like you should all give it a try.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I could certainly think of businesses if I owned a business that sold toilet paper or paper towels, it doesn't make sense for me to be on Pinterest, right? What am I going to do? Put on different images of all the different toilet paper rolls that I sell? It doesn't seem to add value. People aren't seeking that out. But like you said, in health and fitness, there always seems to be an angle. It's very visual and it's easy. It's just an easy connection. I also kind of struggle with this question myself, and I've talked out of both sides of my mouth sometimes when talking about should you have a foothold at least a little bit in every single social media realm, or should you just focus on one? Typically, the answer is something that you just gave by most people to say, hey, if you're really good at one, you need to spend majority of your time doing one, maybe sort of the 80-20 rule, right? And then you have a little bit elsewhere. But I do think it's a mistake for a lot of businesses to not at least try out some of these platforms, or at least make a handle, start to develop the page, because what happens is eventually is your content, once you get into rhythm, if you, let's say you hire a virtual assistant, can be spread across all these platforms very easily, right? So for example, you do a podcast, and then this podcast, I can transcribe into a blog. Then I can take that blog and I can put the blog, something relevant to that blog on Pinterest, and then I can link to it via there, and so on and so forth. You see where I'm going with this. So I just feel like at some point it is good to try out every platform and then decide which ones are good or not good for you.
Yeah, I think you're right. Try it, I think, is exactly what the point is. Give it a shot, see, because you might like it even more. Like if you've been scared of trying Pinterest because you don't know how it works, but then you get to know the platform, you understand it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I actually love creating on Pinterest more than I like creating on TikTok. Then yeah, maybe it's your new platform. And like you said, I did that too with a few other, what's this new, Threads and Lemon 8 or something like that. It's like a new Pinterest version. I haven't dived really into that, but I registered my domain or my handle just to have it, but I really haven't been creating on it. But like you said, maybe there is someone that's going to show up on your team and they are like the ultimate dream person that comes and loves doing like Twitter and Threads and all that kind of stuff, So yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. But at the same time, if you're a solo entrepreneur and you're killing it on one, like YouTube or Instagram or something like that, don't drop your efforts on there to spread out on everything. Because I think that's where people, and I'm guilty of that, where I try to do all the things on all the platforms and I kind of just half do them on all of them, And I'm like, that didn't turn out good.
I think that's a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs. It's like we pretend we have more bandwidth than we actually do. And we're excited. We have the dream, we have the idea in mind. So we start all these projects and then you just can't finish them all. But on social media, that could be bad in a sense, because then, someone stumbles upon your like half effort project and they don't take you seriously. So there is some sort of negative sometimes about not actually having a fully developed social media page on certain platforms. Maybe in some points it's better to have, no face than to have a bad face on some of these platforms. It's an issue I struggle with, like you said too. We always want to start these projects. They don't always get finished. So we put them on the back burner and it's like, well, does that look bad? But what can you do?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I call it ideaphoria, where you get really excited about all these ideas. Like I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like full of ideas. We want to do all the things, but I have trouble with consistency and following through and like completing the ideas. So I have a whole book of ideas. Listen, I could probably be a bazillionaire at this point, but I just haven't done any of them.
You and me both. Maybe we need to. Oh, I was going to say maybe we need to collaborate, but that would be bad because then we'd have thousands of ideas that no one can get finished. So we need to find closers who help us. Is the key. Going back to SEO here, I'm going to talk about it a little bit and then you can add your 2 cents here for people who don't understand it, some like kind of new fitness business entrepreneurs, they don't really understand why keywords are important and SEO. And going back to what we said before is that it's, every website has like a domain authority or a domain score, and it's really Google's way of analyzing if you're reputable or not, right? And the only way that you're going to get reputable is to be interconnected with other websites, right? Have some backlinking with other websites, or have people constantly click on you. And just like Gabby said, they click on you for contextually relevant things, and they stay on your site because you answered their question. So if your board says 6 exercises to get your abs firm, and they click and it's just your homepage, well, they're likely going to click off, and Google's going to say, well, we've had 5 people click on and click off in 1 second. And that's sort of a hit, so to speak, for lack of a better term, on your overall authority and your search engine optimization. So it's important to keep things contextually relevant and to provide value for people in the SEO game, and blogs help do that. Now, Pinterest also helps do that because it connects to your blog and to your website. Is that correct?
Yes, and it shows up high. The website Pinterest.com itself shows up high on Google search results. So if you ever go search for something, you will, like, usually something that is more of like a image related or a list of something like the ab workout, you will get YouTube, obviously, that it will pop up early on. And a lot of the times you'll get Pinterest, because you will get some images that are tagged properly, that are keyword properly. And Pinterest itself has a high domain authority on Google, so it's going to show you some of its content. Our number one driver of traffic to our website is Pinterest, and it has been Pinterest for I don't know how many years, since maybe 2016, since I got serious on the platform. So no matter what, and I'm putting very little effort into it, but because of past work that I've put into the platform, and because the platform Pinterest is evergreen, my content does not disappear after 24 hours, does not become irrelevant necessarily after any amount of time, because I'm not putting dates on there. It's popping back up for people every time they search the Pinterest platform. So if it's getting popular on Pinterest, it's also getting popular on Google if someone is searching for that same term on Google, because they're like, ooh, you want this? Let me show you what that looks like on Pinterest. And therefore the chain continues and continues, years and years and years go on. So yeah, sorry, that was like kind of a long walk around there. But yeah, it is important. It does have domain authority, and it will continue to connect to your website and show, and I always just say it makes Google happy.
And I'm sure you can check, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know if Pinterest gives you reports or something, but you can check what's trending on Pinterest, which will allow you to then kind of copy the trends, follow that, and then use that on your other social media platforms. So maybe there's something trending on Pinterest that's not trending on Instagram, or not yet, but you're able to kind of copy that and then use it for your Instagram or other platforms.
Yes, 100%. And my tip for that would be, or my secret advice here that I actually really only share with my clients, so you guys are getting some insider information. Trends on Pinterest, you need to, let's see if I can explain this right. You need to blog or share about them 45 days before they actually hit their peak trend. So for example, let's say you're looking on the trends. It's basically, Pinterest gives you kind of a diagram of the year and when a certain keyword reaches a peak and when it comes down. So let's say ab workout is popular January 1st, right? So you need to count back 45 days-ish. It could be 2 months before, that's totally fine. And start posting your content that is relevant to ab workouts a month and a half or 2 months before, so that this picks up steam. And by the time January reaches its peak trendiness, then your content is getting all the hits. So that's something that I found kind of in planning my content. If you are doing that, start looking at your trends for the year, pick out your keywords that you want to hit. And it doesn't have to be one every month. Like you could pick 4 for the year, right? And then back up a month and a half or 2 months and make sure you're posting your blogs, your YouTube video, perhaps even your Instagram post that period of time before, and see if that helps you kind of reach peak optimization on the trends.
Yeah, that's great information, because I'm sure most people assume that they should do it day of, week of, not 45 days in advance. And then they're falling behind. They're losing to everybody else. So if you're writing coolest Valentine's Day workout, you want to start doing that the first few days in January, not wait until February 12th to release that. That does make a lot of sense. Now you're saying you're doing that for both blogs and for your pins, correct?
Yes, because my pins have to connect to a URL that's relevant, right? So I will usually blog, and you can blog well in advance too. Like right now it's August 22nd, but I'm seeing a lot of Halloween content on Pinterest, and that's about right. We're, a month, 2 months before. So yeah, you want to blog about it. And if nobody sees your blog post in August, who cares? Not a big deal. That's not, you're not posting it out there for all your loyal readers. But then you start slowly trickling your content out on Pinterest that then will connect back to your relevant blog post.
So what are the metrics that you're concerned with when you're analyzing Pinterest post or Pinterest board success? What are some metrics that people do look at that you think are bad, and what are some metrics that we should be looking at that people aren't looking at?
Okay, the biggest vanity metric that people are looking at is everybody on their profile. It'll say how many monthly viewers they're getting, and people can grow fast. The monthly viewership can grow really fast. It can also drop really fast. And it's something that I do look at just to see where I'm at, but I'm not overly concerned about it because basically all it means is that your pin has shown up in somebody's search result, but it doesn't mean that they took any action on it. It may have just showed up and they continue to slide through and weren't too concerned. So instead, I tell people, look at your pin clicks. I mean, that one's the most important for me. So there are two kind of pin clicks. There's one that's somebody clicks on the photo to blow it up. And that might be something that's a little more detail oriented. They like to see, like for us in the wedding industry, they want to see the details of the flowers, or they want to see the details of the plates or something like that. The other one is they actually click out. It's called an outbound click, and they click out to the link. Now that is like chef's kiss, top notch. We want that. We love that. We want you to do that all the time on Pinterest. That means they're so interested in what they saw on the photo, the pin, and the copy that you put on there is so, they're like, yes, I want to know more. So they've left the Pinterest platform and they have decided to go to whatever. They trust you. They're like, you're going to take me to the right place. And that's what we really, really want to see. And that's hard to get. It's especially when you're starting out, because you are still testing out to see what does your audience want in terms of keywords. What are they clicking on with keywords, and what type of imagery are they wanting, right? So are they wanting close-ups? Are they wanting full body shots or salads or ingredients? What is it that they want? So you've got to do a lot of A/B testing at the beginning. And I tell people, do not be discouraged if you've got zeros across the board on your pins. I still get a lot of zeros. I'm like, okay, you didn't like that keyword or you didn't like that image. Let me try something else. So that's the beauty of Pinterest. You're not necessarily getting penalized if some image or a pin doesn't work out. You're only getting rewarded if they are clicking through.
Yeah, I love that learning process too, to then analyze that pin that was successful and say, okay, what did I do right here? Was it purely the picture? Was it the image? Was it the copy? Or did I have just the right phrase, just the right amount of words, and so on and so forth? And then obviously you continue to try to repeat the process. It doesn't always work because it could have just been the picture, and you can't repeat the picture necessarily, right? Maybe it wasn't the copy, or vice versa. Maybe it was just the perfect copy at the perfect time, and who the heck knows? But I do find that fun, both from a blog perspective and from like an Instagram perspective. Let's say with Reels, I don't really have Pinterest, but with Reels it seems to be that way too, where you can trend easily for certain things, but also, is that what you want to do? Because you don't always want to. The goal shouldn't be, at least for me, when I say, like, when you're on Instagram, the goal shouldn't be just to get as many views on your Reels as possible. The Reels need to be associated with what you're trying to say, or what you're trying to sell, or who you are and what you're trying to represent in your brand. It shouldn't just be a number necessarily.
Yeah, right. I think it's a good, if you're getting zero, then you've got to think, okay, what's happening?
Yeah.
But absolutely, I think it's a vanity metric, and you want to make sure they're taking action. Now, if you're getting a really high viewership, like monthly views, but you're getting no action, then you're like, okay, I'm showing up in some results, but nobody is interested in clicking. Why? So usually I would say I would most likely think it's the copy. So the text on the image is not what they want to click on, or the description on the pin is not quite what they're looking to see, something. So I would start to analyze the copy first.
All right, this is a tough question because a lot of people don't think about this. So what happens if you become hyper successful quickly on Pinterest? You're not expecting it. You just start up and you have these pins and you're getting like tens of thousands of views and people are clicking on it. How do you translate that into success? Because I've seen that happen before where people like get unlucky somehow, if you want to use that term, where they're successful so quickly they don't know how to use it, and they never capture it. They almost lose the steam.
Okay, that's a great question, because I think it's happened to a lot of people where they're like, I don't know, I just put this fruit bowl and it's just an image with no link, and I don't know. Yeah, so we've all had, you know what's funny too, Steve? Our worst image, like my worst image from 1,000 years ago is my most popular one. And I'm like, can I just get rid of this damn thing? So a few things. One is I would make sure to go and edit it and update the copy, not on the photo itself, because the photo is already popular. Don't delete the photo, but you could go and change the description on the side and perhaps the title if you want. But more importantly, make sure the URL is going somewhere relevant. So if it's just an image and it doesn't have any text on top promising them anything in particular, perhaps you want to take them to your Instagram page so they can get to know you. Or perhaps you do take them to the homepage of your website and show your services or something like that. I mean, you can't really go wrong. The best way to probably capture them, though, is to get them on an email list. So you could send them to a landing page that says, hey, wow, so glad you loved this photo. Fun story behind this photo. You know, this is what I do. This is why I took it. If you want to learn more about this, you know, download my freebie or get on my email list. So something that's maybe relevant that brings back to why they clicked on that photo and why you took it, or especially if there is no context. But getting them on your email list is a great way to start to build that, especially if you're like, I don't know what to do with these people yet, but I definitely know I don't want to miss out on this going viral. So get them, collect their email, save that for a rainy day when you're ready to kind of reach back out to them. But I'd say that's the best way to probably get their information.
I don't think we went over this yet. So from a user experience standpoint, can I see the people who are clicking and liking my pins and my boards? I can click on them, their individual profiles, and then follow them. Like how does that work? Like, you know, like in Facebook, it's really easy to see who clicked on your post, and then you click on their profile and see them. Is that how it works in Pinterest, or not necessarily?
Yes, I'm trying to think. Yes, on your profile page, you get like a notification tab. If you go on the notifications, it will say when somebody saved it to their board. So that's the liking of the photo. Okay. Is it has to be saved to somebody's board. There is also on Pinterest what's called a reaction. So some specific pins, like videos and stuff like that, you can do a reaction. So it could be like, that was a good idea. I'm giving you a light bulb emoji, or that was a heart, or that, you know, so you can do a reaction on some of them, so you can see that. But when they save to a board, that's when it's most interesting, because yeah, you could follow them back. Some people have private profiles, so you can't see what they're pinning. You can't see their their email or anything like that. Some people have fake, you know, just handles, so no real names. You can DM people. There are ways to message people. So yeah, you could get really creative on that side of things and start contacting them that way.
I'm going to say this as a statement, but then correct me from where I'm misstating anything. If I'm selling jump ropes, I don't necessarily want to build a pin or a board that just says jump ropes, because there's millions of jump ropes, and the fact that I'm brand new to the game means I'm going to fall all the way behind. What I want to do is maybe say hot pink jump rope, or beginner jump rope, right? Add some sort of adjective that describes my jump rope. Is that correct?
Yes, Steve, you're hired. You're on our team. Yes, exactly. You want to add, and I call it a long tail keyword. So it's basically exactly what you're saying, something that is going a little bit more in depth on describing the jump rope. And I would even challenge you, if you're selling jump ropes, is indirectly target them by saying easy beginner cardio workout, and that's a board, and within that board you've got pins all about jump rope workouts. And so they're kind of feeling like, oh, I didn't know I needed a jump rope, but I love these easy beginner cardio workouts, and they're seeing all these jump ropes, and you can tag a product, and it gets a little bit complicated here, but you can create a pin that tags a product for sale. And so yeah, you could link them back to your shop based on that workout. Now, again, if you're offering them a workout, you want to make sure they're clicking through to something that's giving them a workout, not selling them the jump rope. So you have to be a little bit, careful there. Perhaps once they click out to the blog post, then you also list all of the jump ropes that you have for sale. But yeah, to go back to your point, absolutely. Do not just put workout, food, like, what are people searching in the search bar to get to your pins, right? And use it as a user first to see what would you search to do, easy cardio workout, see what pops up. Oh, there are other jump ropes. Then that's a good sign too, because people are using that keyword to get to their content.
Are there standard post or pin or board practices? Meaning, so on Instagram, they might say, hey, should do it 2 times a day, once at 7 a.m., once at 7 p.m. Does that also exist in Pinterest? If not, why not? If so, why?
Yes and no. A while back, they said like 2 to 5 pins per day, but I would challenge that and say being consistent is more important than the number of pins you're creating. So if you can commit to 1 a day, 4 a week, whatever that day, same time, do that. That is well more preferred than trying to do a quantity. But kind of rule of thumb right now, people are saying 2 to 5 pins a day. Hashtags are back on Pinterest. They left, they came back, they left, they came back. There's a love-hate relationship with hashtags and Pinterest. So now you can use them again, and they are clickable. For a long time, they weren't clickable anymore, so we stopped using them, but now they are clickable yet again.
All right, so walk me through that real quick. If I click on hashtag wedding 2023 and you have whatever, a third of your photos that are tagged in that, it's going to bring up all the different boards and people. Now, is it obviously someone's wedding photos are getting brought above that? Then there's an order, there's a rank order. How are they rank ordering them? Is it random? Do we not know their algorithm, or is it by how sort of like your own Pinterest search optimization page? You're well known on Pinterest, you're going to be up higher than I'm going to be up there.
Oof, that's a good question. And I don't know, because this only just came back recently, so I haven't played. My pins don't have hashtags right now. I would say a few things Pinterest has prioritized in the past was fresh pins. So they did not want to reuse content. Like you said earlier, not using the same image. You've got to produce new images on Pinterest, even if it's the same URL, that's fine. So they're probably going to prioritize fresher, more recent content, and stuff that's gotten a lot of action in the past. So if there's a pin that was saved to 1,000 boards, they're going to show that to the user saying, hey, 1,000 people saved this. You're probably going to like this. So they're going to pop it up at the top as well. That's my guess. I have no proof about this because I haven't really looked back into the hashtags in a long time. But yeah, it's not chronological. It is definitely based on what the user wants to see too. So I bet I would see something different that you see if we both looked at the same hashtag. That's my guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Knowing the social media platforms and how they operate, you don't always know exactly what their algorithm is. Of course, it has to do somewhat with how much they trust you, how much your post has been looked at, what they want trending. But there's always some things in the background you're never going to get. They're withholding some of the information on how it goes. And maybe it's because the algorithm is ever changing. So you think you have it on Thursday, but by Friday it's already changed. So you can't exactly pinpoint it. I know there's advertising on Pinterest. Is that something that you recommend to your clients? Do you do it yourself? How does that work?
So I tried it. I tried it last year or 2 years ago. Basically, it came down to they suggest $20 a day per month. So $20 a day for 30 days, that's $600 a month. And I could see it working for a product-based company. It wasn't great for me as a service-based company. They do assign you a advertising manager from Pinterest. But the weird thing was every 2 weeks, and they told me this ahead of time, every 2 weeks they give you a new person. And I said, this is so dumb because I'm over here re-explaining my strategy every 2 weeks. And I'm like, nobody's really helping me grow because they're just starting at the base every time. So yeah. I was like, just for marketing kind of research purposes, because my clients were asking a lot about paid ads, I did it, and I did it for a few months probably. And I can't say that I got a lot of it. I got a lot of hits to certain pins. I therefore carried over to website clicks, but I don't know that I got my money back really. Then I could have gone organically. I've already bringing a ton of people to my website organically. I don't need to pay in that sense, but I would be curious about more product-based businesses.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of all of the advertising on currently. Facebook used to be pretty good. It's not anymore. I've never advertised on Instagram, but I'm skeptical because even when you do it, so I've done Instagram like individual post advertising. So you set it for a duration, let's say for 6 days, and the amount per day. Let's say you do $20 per day. It's $120. If you look at the people who are liking the posts, most of them seem like bots. They have 2 posts, they have 6 followers, and you can't click into any of their profiles, right? So I don't know how much of this is directed towards, again, them assuming that you, the person paying for the advertising, gets really excited because your post got X amount of likes and views, but they weren't really your target market, and maybe they weren't even real and legitimate. So you're never really getting much out of it except the excitement and the highs from the likes and clicks. I think your money is well better suited doing the organic stuff like we talked about, focusing on your search engine optimization and really honing in on who your target market is.
Yeah, agreed. I haven't played with Instagram, but I would imagine similar things are happening across all platforms.
This has been fantastic information. Let my listeners know where they can find more about you, Gabby, personally, if they want to reach out to you to ask you about Pinterest, more about your services, because I can tell you, even though you specialize in wedding stuff, fitness and health people can still gain enough information from you to repurpose sort of what you do, because it's a service, and that's what we do. We provide a service to do what we do. So let us know where they can find you on Instagram, on Pinterest, and everywhere else.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. At Gabby Pinkerton is my Instagram. That's where I share all things Pinterest that I think would be helpful to your audience too. The best service that I think, no matter what type of business they have, that I can offer is my one-on-one Pinterest audit. So I go in and I record a 15-minute video of me auditing your profile. I recommend keywords. I talk about your pins, I make suggestions, and then we have a 30-minute Zoom call together to go over all that and see the changes that you've made and how to kind of analyze your data a little bit more. So that's been really popular for people across. I mean, I've done a lot of non-wedding related stuff in food and fitness and stuff like that. So that is all on my website at gabbypinkerton.com. I also have a YouTube channel that's Gabby Pinkerton, and I do share some wedding content, but I also share some Pinterest tips and tricks, so you can go back into the archives and see what I'm blabbing about over there.
I will put all the links in the description. My guest today has been Gabby Pinkerton. Gabby, thank you for joining the Trulyfit podcast.
Thank you so much.